The asylum stood on a hill, Blackwood Asylum. Its name alone was enough to send shivers down the spine of anyone who heard it. The building loomed over the town below, a constant reminder of the darkness that once resided within its walls. The fog that often enveloped the hill added to its eerie presence, making it seem as though the asylum was a living, breathing entity, watching over the town with a malevolent gaze. A name that chilled the bones. Blackwood Asylum was not just a building, it was a symbol of fear and despair. The townsfolk spoke of it in hushed tones, sharing stories of the horrors that took place within its walls. The asylum's Gothic architecture, with its towering spires and dark, foreboding facade, only added to its menacing aura. It was a place where nightmares were born and hope went to die. The building was tall, with broken windows like empty eyes. These windows, once filled with the light of the outside world, now stood shattered and dark, like the souls of those who had been confined within. The broken glass seemed to whisper secrets of the past, tales of suffering and torment that echoed through the empty halls. Each window was a portal to a forgotten memory, a glimpse into the lives that were lost to the asylum's cruel embrace. Vines crawled up its walls, reaching for the slate roof. These vines, twisted and gnarled, seemed to be the only living things that dared to touch the asylum. They crept up the walls like skeletal fingers, as if trying to reclaim the building from the darkness that had consumed it. The once proud structure was now a canvas for nature's relentless march, a testament to the passage of time and the inevitability of decay. The wind howled through the trees, sounding like screams. The leafless branches swayed and creaked, their skeletal forms casting eerie shadows on the ground below. The wind carried with it the voices of the past, the anguished cries of those who had suffered within the asylum's walls. It was as if the very air around the building was haunted, filled with the echoes of pain and sorrow that refused to be silenced. Blackwood had a dark past. Its history was steeped in tragedy and horror, a legacy of suffering that had left an indelible mark on the town. The asylum's records told stories of patients who had been subjected to unspeakable treatments, their cries for help falling on deaf ears. The walls of Blackwood had witnessed countless acts of cruelty, each one adding to the darkness that seemed to seep from every corner of the building. It was built in 1872, a place for the forgotten. The asylum was intended to be a sanctuary for those who had been cast aside by society, a place where they could find solace and care. But instead, it became a prison, a place where the forgotten was subjected to unimaginable horrors. The building's grand opening was marked by hope and promise, but it didn't take long for the darkness to take hold, turning Blackwood into a place of nightmares. The patients suffered from madness and despair. The treatments were cruel. The doctors and staff, driven by a misguided belief in their methods, subjected the patients to barbaric practices. Electroshock therapy, lobotomies, and other inhumane treatments were commonplace, leaving the patients in a state of perpetual agony. The asylum, which was supposed to be a place of healing, became a chamber of horrors, where the line between sanity and madness was blurred beyond recognition. Many died within its walls. Now it stood empty, a monument to suffering. The once bustling halls were now silent, the only sounds being the whispers of the past and the creaking of the old building as it settled into its final rest. The asylum, abandoned and forgotten, stood as a grim reminder of the darkness that had once consumed it. It was a place where the past refused to be forgotten, where the shadows of the dead lingered, waiting for their stories to be told.
A documentary crew came to Blackwood. This wasn't just any ordinary town, it was a place shrouded in mystery and whispered legends. The crew, armed with cameras, microphones, and a thirst for the unknown, had one mission: to uncover the secrets that lay hidden in the shadows. They wanted to tell its story. A story that had been buried under layers of time and fear. Each member of the crew had their own reasons for being there, their own personal connection to the darkness that enveloped Blackwood. They were drawn to the darkness. It was as if the town itself had a magnetic pull, an invisible force that beckoned them closer. The air was thick with anticipation and a sense of foreboding. Every creak of the old buildings, every rustle of the leaves seemed to whisper secrets of the past. The crew was led by Mark, a seasoned investigator. Mark had spent years delving into the paranormal, exploring haunted locations and uncovering the truth behind ghostly tales. His experience made him the perfect leader for this expedition. He had a calm demeanor, a sharp mind, and an unshakable belief in the existence of the supernatural. He had seen it all, or so he thought. Blackwood was different. There was something about this place that unsettled even him. The stories he had heard, the encounters he had read about, all pointed to a darkness that was deeper and more malevolent than anything he had faced before.
There was Sarah, the historian. Sarah's fascination with Blackwood began years ago when she stumbled upon an old journal in a dusty library. The journal spoke of strange occurrences, of people disappearing without a trace, and of a darkness that seemed to consume the town. Her research had led her to uncover countless documents, each adding a piece to the puzzle. She had studied Blackwood for years. Her knowledge was vast. She knew the town's history better than anyone, and her insights were invaluable to the crew. Sarah believed that understanding the past was the key to uncovering the truth about the present. She was determined to find the answers, no matter how terrifying they might be.
Then came Ben, the cameraman. Ben had a unique talent for capturing the essence of a place through his lens. His footage was more than just images. It was a window into the soul of the location. He had an eye for detail and a knack for being in the right place at the right time. He captured everything with his lens. Every shadow, every flicker of movement, every eerie glow was documented meticulously. Ben believed that the camera could see what the human eye could not, and he was determined to capture the truth, no matter how elusive it might be.
And finally, Lisa, the sound technician. Lisa had an acute sense of hearing and an ability to pick up the faintest of sounds. She was the one who could hear the whispers in the silence, the voices that seemed to come from nowhere. She listened for whispers in the silence. Every creak, every distant murmur, every unexplained noise was recorded and analyzed. Lisa believed that sound held the key to understanding the paranormal, and she was determined to uncover the hidden messages that the darkness of Blackwood had to offer.
They started with interviews. Local townsfolk shared their stories, tales of strange lights and sounds, whispers of patients who never left. Sarah uncovered old records, medical reports, journals and letters. They painted a grim picture of neglect, abuse and despair. The crew felt a shift. The history was becoming real, too real.
The crew decided to stay overnight. They set up their equipment in the main hall. The air was heavy, thick with dust and silence.
As night fell, the temperature dropped. The shadows grew longer, stretching across the floor.
They began their investigation, documenting every room, every corner.
Then they heard it, a faint scratching sound, coming from the floor above.
We were definitely not welcome here. The moment we stepped into the abandoned asylum, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over us. The air was thick with an unspoken warning, as if the very walls were whispering tales of the horrors they had witnessed. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant echo seemed to be a reminder that we were intruding on a place that had long been forgotten by time, but not by the spirits that lingered. It felt like a sign that we should turn back, but curiosity got the better of us. We pressed on, driven by the need to uncover the secrets hidden within these decaying walls. The sign, old and barely legible, seemed to mock us, daring us to continue our exploration. It was as if the asylum itself was testing our resolve, challenging us to face whatever lay ahead. Jars of preserved organs crashed to the floor. The sound was deafening in the silence, a stark reminder of the macabre history of this place. Each jar, once a vessel of scientific curiosity, now lay shattered, its contents spilling out like the secrets of the asylum itself. The sight was both fascinating and horrifying, a glimpse into the dark practices that had once taken place here. And then, as we were filming, a shelf just collapsed. It was as if an unseen force had decided to make its presence known, reminding us that we were not alone. The dust that filled the air seemed to dance in the dim light, creating an almost ethereal atmosphere. We stood there frozen as the reality of our situation began to sink in. This was no ordinary exploration. We were delving into the unknown, and the unknown was responding. The tools of torment, really. Yeah, there were restraints, the kind that hinted at the dark and twisted experiments that had once been conducted here. Each tool, each piece of equipment told a story of pain and suffering. The restraints, still intact after all these years, seemed to hold the echoes of the past, a silent testament to the horrors that had been inflicted within these walls. Syringes and scalpels, instruments of healing turned into tools of torture. The syringes, once used to administer medicine, now seemed to symbolize the perversion of science. The scalpels, sharp and gleaming, were a stark reminder of the fine line between healing and harm. Each instrument was a relic of a time when the pursuit of knowledge had taken a dark and twisted turn. We found this room, filled with old medical equipment. It was like stepping back in time, into a world where the boundaries of ethics and morality had been blurred. The room was a chilling reminder of the lengths to which people would go in the name of progress. The equipment, now rusted and decayed, stood as a testament to the dark history of the asylum, a history that was all too eager to reveal itself to us. The air. It was so damp and cold, it clung to our skin, seeping into our bones and making us shiver. The basement was a world unto itself, a place where the light of day never reached. The cold was almost palpable, a constant reminder of the isolation and despair that had once filled this place. The mist that hung in the air seemed to swirl around us, adding to the eerie atmosphere. It reeked of mildew and decay. The smell was overpowering, a nauseating mix of rot and neglect. The walls, covered in mold and mildew, seemed to be slowly disintegrating, giving way to the relentless march of time. Each breath we took was a reminder of the decay that surrounded us, a decay that seemed to mirror the dark history of the asylum itself. It was like a labyrinth down there, a maze of corridors and rooms that seemed to go on forever. Each turn brought us deeper into the heart of the asylum, further away from the safety of the outside world. The walls seemed to close in on us, creating a sense of claustrophobia that was hard to shake. It was as if the asylum was trying to trap us, to keep us within its dark embrace, with rooms and corridors twisting and turning everywhere. It was easy to get lost, to lose track of where we had been and where we were going. The layout of the basement was confusing, almost as if it had been designed to disorient and confound. Each new corridor brought with it a sense of dread, a feeling that we were being watched, that we were not alone. The next day we decided to explore the basement. Armed with flashlights and a renewed sense of determination, we ventured into the darkness once more. The beams of light cut through the gloom, revealing the hidden corners and shadowy recesses of the basement. Each step was a journey into the unknown, a test of our courage and resolve. We were determined to uncover the secrets of the asylum, no matter what it took. That night, the activity intensified.
They heard voices whispering their names.
Doors slammed shut on their own.
Ben swore he saw a figure watching them from the shadows.
Lisa's equipment picked up EVPs.
Electronic voice phenomena.
Distorted voices pleading for help.
Mark the skeptic started to believe.
Something was here with them.
Something dark and angry. One by one, the asylum was claiming its victims. He couldn't handle the truth. He dropped his camera and ran. The sight was too much for Ben. A doctor covered in blood, performing a surgery, a full-bodied apparition. In the old operating theater they witnessed something terrifying. Driven by curiosity and fear, they ventured deeper into the asylum. And the horror they had witnessed within its walls, they knew they would never forget Blackwood. The windows seemed to glow, watching them go. As they drove away, they could see the asylum in their rear-view mirror. They packed up their equipment and fled into the night. They had enough. The remaining crew decided to leave.
Blackwood Asylum still stands, a haunting reminder of a dark past. The crew never returned. They were forever changed by their experience. The spirits of Blackwood remain, trapped, tormented, and seeking release. Their cries echo through the empty halls, a chilling reminder that some places are best left undisturbed.